offering my devotional pranams at the lotus feet of His Holiness Sadhguru Sri Madhusudan Sai ji, galaxy of academic administrators, honorable vice-chancellors across India, and all my fellow delegates who are part of this wonderful session. I deem it as my privilege and pride to be part of this divine dialogue. I don't call this as a conversation, I call this as a divine dialogue. And before we start the actual conversation, I would like to quote Vachana of Lord Basaveshwara, which talks about the human values or the human education that we are discussing about. I will say it in Kannada and then try to say it in English. Kalabeda, kolabeda, ಹುಸಿಯ ನುಡಿಯಲು ಬೇಡ, ಮುನಿಯ ಬೇಡ, ಅನ್ಯರಿಗೆ ಅಸಹ್ಯ ಪಡಬೇಡ, ತನ್ನ ಬನ್ನಿಸಬೇಡ, ಇದಿರು ಹಳಿಯಲು ಬೇಡ, ಇದೇ ಅಂತರಂಗದ ಶುದ್ಧಿ, ಇದೇ ಬಹಿರಂಗ ಶುದ್ಧಿ, ಇದೇ ನಮ್ಮ ಕೂಡಲ ಸಂಗನ ಶರಣರ ಒಲಿಸುವ ಪರಿ. The translational meaning of this vachana: do not steal, do not kill, do not lie, do not be angry with others, do not praise yourself, do not be scornful of others, and these are the means for your inward purity, these are the means for your outward beauty, and these are the means to please the Lord Sangamanatha. With this, it's my privilege to seek the advice, the ideological thoughts about several questions, that we have tried to collect questions from all academic leaders, Sadhguruji, and I would like to take few of them, and looking at the time and all, we will see how whether we will be able to cover all the questions. But I promise all my fellow vice chancellors, in case we are not able to take your question in this session, we will ensure that we will come back to you with the divine answer to your questions through email or through other means. Sadhguruji, I would seek your permission to start with. How and what inspired you to become divine and build a great institution rooted in ethics, great values? I would like to request you to kindly guide us on how to build our institutions with values and serve people at the grassroots level.
Namaste to everyone. And of course, Dr. Ashok Alu for doing this conversation, not a conversation, divine dialogue. So dialogue has to be between two people. And if it's a divine dialogue, then both have to be divine. Otherwise, it'll be divine monologue. So you are equally divine as I am is not just the assumption, that's the truth. And with that truth, we will proceed. Madiyal Narayan Bhatt. He was from Madiyal near Alike in Mangalore, Dakshin Kannada. So he started it now it's 55 years back with Narsimurti ji as his first soldier here. So when I came here, I met him. I said, I have guidance from Baba Guru that something needs to be done in the future about education, healthcare, and nutrition. He immediately said, if it's Baba's will, we all are ready. And that's how this mission began. And step by step, thousands and thousands of people have joined this mission. And today it is where it is. So the inspiration is from Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. And what Narendra Modi ji said about him was very significant. During the inauguration of our Fiji hospital, Modi ji came online and said, what Baba has done is, he has redeemed the ritualism from religion and connected religion to social service. उन्होंने धर्म को कर्मकांड से मुक्त करके सेवा से जोड़ दिया है. This is the contribution of Baba. It's a great lesson for all spiritual religious leaders around the world that we have to be socially relevant, not just spiritually, but socially. Baba did that in his lifetime, and that has inspired me as a student. And when this call came, I definitely was very thrilled that something like this can be done in my life. And I was more than happy to be a part of this mission. And as they say, rest is history. So inspiration is from there. In our Indian tradition, a guru is always considered the highest. Acharyas are there, teachers are there who are professionals. But guru is an enlightened being. And I think Baba played that vital role in my life. Now I am getting the opportunity to play it for others. As you see, one lamp can light another lamp, and the light spreads. So this is how our Guru Shishya Parampara of India continues, and we are working on the same. So this is the inspiration, and good people came. When we started, we were very just few of us could count us on our fingers, but slowly many people who are resonating with this idea of transforming the society, building a better nation in the world, they started joining hands. And like if a flower blossoms, the bees find their way. If you leave a piece of candy, sugars, ants will find their way. Likewise, if you start good work, good people find their way to that institution. And I think that is how you all have come here. Despite there are 1,200 vice chancellors in the country, you are the WISE chancellors who have come here for this conference, definitely drawn by that divine power. This is how this happens.
Close this question one. We have requests from several of my fellow vice chancellors. They would also like to set up centers for humane education, and they would request guidance and support from this great institution.
Definitely. I think this has been an experiment going on for last 50 plus years. Started with Madhyal Narayan, but then Baba, and then it is continuing with us. We have learned a lot over the last 5 decades as to what works and what does not work. And with the changing generations, as you know, from Gen Z to now Gen Alpha, the cultural value systems, their belief systems, their behavior, and also social circumstances have changed. So also education has changed. So we have learned a lot and changed ourselves on the way. We would love to share this with everyone, and the purpose of these conferences that there should be some actionable out of this deliberation, where small centers of values education gets established in various institutions around the country, to begin with India, maybe abroad as well eventually. So we are here to lend a helping hand. But one thing that really is a must, which is the reason why things happen, is that the leader of the institution should be thoroughly convinced that this has to be done. And come what may, the leader must do everything in his or her might to make it happen, because this is swimming against the tide. This is not something that you would get praise for or you would get appreciated. But this is nevertheless the hard work that we need to do in order to build a better future for our society. So I think if we get one leader from every institution who is convinced about this and who is willing to dedicate his or her energies towards it, even though it is not mandatory or whatever regulated by the government or is not compulsory, but out of his own volition and conviction, if they take part, we'll be more than happy to work with them. And we have experienced very good success in molding character in the young generations by our experience of so many years. And before I close this answer, let me tell you what, again, we had a discussion with the Prime Minister when he had come for the opening of this medical school at Delhi when we went to invite. He asked me about this model. What is this human excellence? What are you people doing in the university? And I told him that out of our students who passed, 99% are joining us back as educationists, academicians, administrators. And that is our strength, that is our sustainability model. And he also talked about the Gujarat Sanskrit Vishwavidyalaya that he actually had promoted because he wanted to create purohits and priests for the future and spread Indian culture. And he was saying that I met one of them in one country somewhere on my tour. And during that visit, I was so thrilled that this was an alumnus from the university I set up in Gujarat, that I feel so good that these children are now spreading the Indian culture. So we had a long discussion and I explained to him how this model works. He was very thrilled. And we also went to his university in Gujarat and then understood how they are doing things. So if you have a leader with conviction, who is willing to do everything, leaving no stone unturned, I think we as an institution are going to stand with them. And out of my impatience, let me uh, reveal it to you as I was talking to Narsimurthy ji on the way, that we are committed to providing even financial support every year to the institutions which are willing to set up a center with at least one faculty senior and one junior faculty, and they have their only responsibility is to conduct these program on regular basis. And maybe at the end of the year, with the graduating batch coming out, A special medal can be instituted, degrees or programs wise, which will be sponsored by us, which will entail a small cash prize as well as a medal and a citation to encourage one of them at least in the batch who has dedicated to this cause of human excellence and who has been recognized by the entire institute as somebody who lives those values. So this is anyway in the offing, and I think by the time we end this conference, we would have some of these action items in place. So we are very committed to setting up these centers across the country.
So thank you very much. I wholeheartedly thank you for this kind support. And it's now up to us to take it further and then put it into action. I'll go to the next question. Sadhguruji, today we are at the brink of Third World War and a Cold War with increased tariff rates by US. Youth are influenced by politicians and the media in the name of religion and regionalism. I would request you to guide our youth to become ambassadors of peace and harmony, and how our institutions can take this as one of the important responsibility.
Of course. Today, the world in 21st century is very different from what anybody could have imagined in 20th century. In 20th century, they would have thought this is the end of all the wars. We have learnt our lessons. We shall not harm any of us anymore. We shall work towards human progress. United Nations was formed with these great ideas, and so many other such groups were formed to promote human progress, societal progress, economic progress, equity, equality. But in 21st century, looks like we have slipped all the way back, and now it's much more dangerous than what it was in 20th century, when nuclear weapons were not there, when such weapons of mass destructions were not there. The last we know is Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I'm just returning from Japan. I saw how Japan worked hard to build itself. It took 50 years for it to build and come to a certain state because of one war that it lost. And today, if we do that, we do not know how many hundreds of years we will slip back in our progress. So it is a dangerous moment. But my question is this: who are the decision makers? Who decides there should be a war? Somebody who has been elected by the people, except some autocratic countries. Most of the countries, especially America that you mentioned, US, it is a democratic country. There is process of election. Now, who are these voters? Why do they vote for people? Because they believe in certain ideologies. And those ideologies are very divisive. That is how the politics of the place works. You divide and rule. If we generate a sense of purpose, a sense of responsibility, a sense of humaneness in the voter community, they would elect the right kind of people. Maybe some of them will be the leaders, and then right decisions will be made. So, our job is to create that next generation of enlightened citizens and voters who would choose the right leaders so that such situations can be averted. Where India's role comes is because India is the youngest country today in the world. I was in Japan, their average age is 48 years or something. Everybody is retiring there. In India's median age is 28.8 years. 30, 40 crore young Indians are here in colleges, schools, working in professions. And in the coming times, I'm told by 2060 will be 1.7 billion people. Before the population starts declining, we would reach that. 1.7 billion means another 40, 50 crore children between now and 2060 are going to be added to our voting population. So also around the world. And these children, if they are very enlightened, they are responsible, they know their purpose, and they vote for the right people, they take the right decisions, they choose the right leaders. And of course, India will be the economic engine of the world, because this is where all the productivity and all the workforce is. We will work for the whole world. We will pull the cart. So they have to listen to us, because without us, world will not be able to function in the future. So that is where India's democracy or demography both come together to make a big impact on the world. But all these 40, 50, 60 crore young Indians would be wasted or would end up doing something wrong if the education system is not reformed now and here. Any delay is going to be detrimental, is going to be very damaging, not just for India, but for the whole world. And that is why I keep coming back to saying that this is India's time, that's for sure. But how do we use this opportunity? If our education is right, Indians will be right. And if India is right, the world will be right in the future. That is my hope. In short term, we may not be able to influence much of these things. But think a little ahead, 2 decades, 3 decades from now. I'm sure India can make a significant mark with Indians being everywhere in the world, performing various tasks and roles. And I'm sure Indians will run the world because we will be the working population of the world. And if these are enlightened, not just employable, but enlightened graduates and postgraduates, imagine the kind of soft power that India would wield in culturing the rest of the world as per Indian ethos of Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha or live and let live, whichever way you think. Then the world will become a better place. And I don't think there will be any scope for wars because there won't be leaders, there won't be public acceptance of that. So that would be the future that India can create for the world. That's why it's time that we work hard on preparing the next generation towards this.
Thank you, sir, for a wonderful, advice to all of us, and reminding us about our responsibilities. I would like to go to the next question. We rightfully celebrate our history of holistic education. We talk about it. However, our current curriculum structure is most often fragmented into hyper specialized silos. Many of them are driven by our authority guidelines and industry demands. And in the light of this, what specific scalable pedagogical models and the curriculum reforms that we can implement to ensure that every student in any field of science, whether it's engineering, medicine, agriculture, arts, science, whatever it is, they graduate with a core understanding and appreciation of Indian philosophical thought. So that's very important. And also, we teach them with ethics. We want them to come out with human values, without which, we feel them, it's going to be a burden to the society. I would like to have your advice on this.
Of course, in the last 75, 80 years, Indian education system has undergone several reforms. And now higher education especially has taken big leaps with bringing enough technology, education, which wasn't there. Even in 90s, people who became software engineers were not educated to be software engineers. They discovered it on their way. So we were very agile in learning from the world and quickly adapting to it. That is the strength of Indians, that we are very quick in adapting and very quick in learning and reinventing ourselves. I think regulatory bodies now are much more enlightened than what they were in the past, because earlier the whole focus was get employment for Indians because we were poor. Our GDP was low. The first objective was get everybody to earn something and put food on everybody's plate. That was survival pressure. Today, I think that's not the main reason why education should happen. Today, education is to add value to the society, solve problem. So our education should be looked at from a different point of view, which I think authorities are beginning to recognize. It may still take some time because old habits die hard, and the comfort of known things never allows us to go into the unknown. But it's the students who will change the system. They will demand what is needed for the world. I don't depend so much on the authorities' ideas, but I think the generation next would ask, we want this kind of education. Give it to us, otherwise we go elsewhere. And why I say this is that this is happening in the United States of America, pioneers in education, modern education. I saw Stanford is giving away scholarships for degree programs. They would never do that because they're in such demand that anybody would pay through their nose to get a seat there. MIT is giving, Harvard is giving. And I said, how come all these people have become so generous all of a sudden? It's not their generosity. They're not takers for their long-term degree programs because students want short-term industry-oriented or relevant courses. They do not want to undergo that long 4 or 5 years of long and hard education programs. So they are dropping all that. And they are not getting enough students enrolled into their institutions. They are trying to get students from countries like ours, where students have still not understood what they need to study. They just want a stamp of Stanford or some MIT or some Ivy League institution. They just go and do that. So also our IITs, and so also I've dealt with a lot of technical education people. Our medicine program, MBBS, everything has to be revamped. And that will, if authorities don't do it, students will get it done. They would reject the old and they will ask for the new. So it's better that we become alert and aware that that is the future. And I think gone are the days of long-term degree programs. Maybe in pure sciences, basic fundamental knowledge system, it would still be there. But most of the generation next would ask for industry oriented programs. So I think we have to revamp ourselves. We have to give them quickly what they need, because a lot of things are available through now AI. These models are they, at the fingertips of everybody. So nobody would like to spend time memorizing and remembering on all those things. They would only do the problem solving, the creative thinking part of it, and the critical thinking. The rest of it AI will do. So we need to revamp our education system. That is one. Second thing, what I feel is that our students have to be sensitized that jobs are not only in the urban areas or abroad. There is work to be done in the rural parts of India. There is a lot of work to be done still. So my focus would be, if education authorities can do more relevant programs to rural, not only India, but for the rural world. I'm sure in India, two-thirds of the people still live in the rural. And because more children are born in the rural area, so this proportion is not going to change despite urbanization. More children will be born in rural India, so there will be a larger population to be served. Can we come up with educative programs which can solve rural problems, be it rural infrastructure, agriculture, water management, climate resilient crops, be it anything else, healthcare, technology, whatever we can do for rural India? I think that is where jobs won't go away so easily, because that market is still to be served, and people are getting little wealthy now. They're able to pay for some basic services, unlike earlier times. So my feeling is that two-step change in the technical side of education. One, instead of long and hard courses, come up with short industry relevant programs. Two, cater to the problems of rural India, not just the urban or the abroad kind of a requirement, which also would be there. I think everybody will have something good to do, something purposeful to do. Now, add the extra element of ethics, Indian ethical system ethos, which is about live and let live in a very simple way. You do not harm anybody, don't get harmed by anyone as well. And that kind of understanding in people has to be created. And we have to teach them our knowledge systems, Indian ancient scriptures. Our old times, we had para and apara vidya, used to say. Para vidya is higher knowledge, apara vidya is the lower knowledge to deal with the world and fill your belly. This higher knowledge has gone out of the system. Now moral classes also are not there. So unless we as educationists bring back some discussions, classroom discussions about why ethics are important, how to practice them in the most testing circumstances, we would not be able to prepare children with moral fiber, and they will end up with money making unethical practices, and that could harm the whole country. Whatever we good we do, it will be undone because of one or two such people who have power and position and brilliance like Rakshasas. They have everything except morality, and they can do so much of damage. So I think India's responsibility is not only to save our country but to save the world, because India is blessed with these scriptural ideas. Most of the other countries have very shallow understanding of morality and ethics, but we who believe in the supremacy of spirit, in a higher purpose of life called moksha, we are the only ones who can do it right. And it will be unfortunate if we don't do it when it was given to us. We have no one to blame than ourselves. So all education systems should be reformed. Some dedicated time and efforts have to be provided towards building this moral fiber in our students, the ethical and moral responsibility in staff and students, which is why we are going back to this humane quotient and things like that, because people will ask, okay, we agree to your idea. Now, how do we implement it? How much time do you need to do that? How do we assess it is working or not working? So we wanted to come up with a structured idea, and I'm hoping that in time to come, even if it starts as voluntary acceptance of this idea and voluntary implementation, looking at the results of what's going on, other institutions will come and someday it will get normalized, is our hope.
I have another interesting question on the similar lines. As a founder, as a chancellor, as a spiritual leader, how do you foresee the integration of spiritual literacy, such as mindfulness, compassion, and inner ethics, into mainstream education, without compromising on the academic rigor? Because with increasing emphasis on employability and STEM education, I would like to know from you, how can we ensure humane values such as empathy, justice, and respect for life, they're not sidelined?
I think everybody should start talking about it in the first place. If you come inside the class, the professor should discuss a value in the class. That is not your STEM education, I understand. But this is the very foundation on which your STEM education would stand. So it is up to the teachers and professors to start at least having a classroom conversation about ethics, morality, integrity, spiritual values. maybe 5 7 minutes in a class of an hour, if it's dedicated to a little discussion, I think that's the starting point, even in an informal way. But what's happening now is that they just walk into the institute and start the subject, and before the bell rings, they want to finish this much of syllabus and walk out. And students are also only interested in that because they don't know any other way. Parents are interested in that because they think they're paying for that. And moral and all, we will teach them at home. You please teach them the subjects, is what the parents say. But I think still swimming against the tide, it is up to the teachers. Teachers can make or break the country. If they decide that they will spend a few minutes every day in their class and talk about these things to begin with, even in an unstructured way, from their life's experiences, something will go inside the children. At least there is a conversation in the room. And today, with mental illness, like Guru Teroji was also telling, it's spreading like epidemic everywhere around the world. And I keep quoting the US all the time because we always try to measure up to the US standards for everything. I was there, I was reading a newspaper. It said the emergency rooms in the hospitals are filled with children aged 5 years above to 14 15 years who have tried to take their lives, who are in depression, who are having mental anxieties, suicidal tendencies, self harm tendencies. And we do not have child psychologists and therapists to look after them because we thought therapists are needed only after we are in midlife crisis. That was the earlier way of psychologists and therapists requirement. So all are trained to deal with people at 40, 45 when they're going through that midlife crisis. But now the psychotherapists are required for children, and they are not there in enough numbers in the US. So children are suffering, and parents don't know what to do. They're at their wits' end. The schools do not know how to handle these, whether it's gun violence or substance abuse or teenage pregnancies or name it. No, the situation is so bad there. It's only surface looks good. Deep down, it's all rotten. So unless we introduce these ideas in the system, we are heading the same way. Today, our engineering colleges are not any different. Our medical colleges are not any different. Substance abuse, criminal activities, all kinds of unethical practices are happening everywhere. And we are heading the same way. Why? Because we are choosing to look the other way. Who is going to dirty their hands? But some of us have to jump into the muck and start cleaning it. Otherwise, it will take over the entire country. So I feel that sensitizing students, staff in your own local sphere of influence, who would listen to you because of your authority or your personality. Start having a conversation. Start celebrating days, one day in a month as Ethics Day or Indian Culture Day or something like that, so that children will start getting some inputs, and that input probably will help them at least take the right decision in the crucial junctures of their life. So start with a classroom conversation is what I would suggest, and slowly build it better year after year and make it a culture of the institution. And I think vice chancellors are the people who can really take this forward. If they start talking, everybody will start talking in the institutions.
Yesterday, one of the learned vice chancellor was asking, uh, which can be one model university in the country to look at as the one which teaches human education. And most of us, we felt that it is none other than Satyasai Sai University of Human Excellence.
Thank you.
So I would like to know from you, your university seamlessly, integrating schooling and higher education under one value-based system. How this model can be scaled across India, especially for the rural and undeserved regions in the light of NEP. And I also would like to know from you how can we share HEUQ and HEQ frameworks and transforming students' character, and how these can be metrics adopted in other universities across India.
I'm very glad that you think that this is an ideal university. But let me tell you, we have very small numbers. That's why we are able to keep the quality intact. But once we scale to a few thousands like your universities, definitely dilution can happen. So we are very careful in growing. Many of the people have questioned us. It's 5 years, yet your whole graduate batch is just 100 students. How can that happen? Such huge infrastructure, so much of expenses, and then you only train so many. I said, right now I'm training commanders, not soldiers. Soldiers is the next phase. These are the people who are to be leaders. So every of our student is given the input to become leaders. And I believe that in times, we can post them in several of your institutions around the country without burdening you, as I mentioned to you just now. You might not have a budget or a program or an approval for a formal department like this, but we can support it as an informal program on what you call co-curricular activity program. And one of our student or staff would be in touch with your institution or even be posted there to continue doing this. So our idea is that to use them as catalysts, just put them there in those institutions and they will catalyze the reactions and they will do whatever is required. So that is how we are training these students. Right now they are catalyzing the schools education in our system, because we need a lot of people coming to the university, a few thousands. They come from our schools. So once we take the schools children, I have trained at least 2 3,000 of them in the university. I think that is the time we'll start sharing these children with all the other universities around the world, because they are trained very well in implementing these programs. They are themselves products of these programs. And the age group, they all belong to same age group. And an old man comes and advises a young man, they won't listen, because it is generation gap that doesn't allow them to converse or have a meaningful understanding between them. But young children telling the other young children will definitely cut the ice. So I feel that in another 5 years we will have probably enough students who have been trained in as postgraduates, graduates in this kind of moral or values based education, human excellence education, and they can become catalysts for change in all other general institutions, private or public or government institutions. That is my hope. So our institute was founded with this idea that we want to create change makers. We do not want to just create doctors, engineers, or lawyers, or accountants, or administrators. Our idea, they should be change makers. So of course they need to have a degree, because if I tell them I'm only educating them in some abstract human values education program, no parents would send them to our university. So we have to give them a degree, formal degree, but actually train them for something much bigger than that. That's what we have done. And my hope is that in 5 years, we should be able to start putting these children in various institutions around. So this is where I'm starting to build this road from here to the 5 years by convincing a few of you, let us start small. But someday it can become a formal curriculum. People might take these programs as a formal program because other universities will ask them to come and work for them. So I'm hoping that someday that will become the norm. But we need a lot of young boys who want to become that kind of catalyst change makers or influencers in some way, spiritual influencers. And that can happen because young generation talks only to young generation. And these are very sensitive topics which cannot be just forced fed to the children. It has to be coming from inside, and only their peer group can talk to them. We cannot talk to them. We means I think I still can talk to them, but a lot of us cannot talk to them because we all look too authoritative, too beyond, too far from their peer age group. So that is where I want to use these students. So if you give us an opportunity, in 5 years we can show that all this can be done.
Thank you, Sadhguruji, for a wonderful input. Of late, we have been talking about moral education, but in most of the cases, most of the academicians, we were focusing more on preparing good employees. And of late, we started talking about entrepreneurs. And now it's your input, your advice that we should focus more on producing more and more change makers from these universities. Moving to the next question. In what ways can teachings of spiritual master or an humanitarian leader inspire academic leadership like us to transcend transactional models of education and embrace transformative purpose-driven approach?
I think you have answered it in your question. A purpose driven approach. What does a spiritual leader or any leader should give you? He should give you a purpose. And all your efforts, energies, skills, talents should be directed, oriented towards achieving that purpose. Now, purposes are different. An entrepreneur's purpose is probably to become a unicorn quickly. A military man's purpose is to see to that India is never in the hands of foreign forces. A politician's purpose is different, so also as engineers. A spiritually enlightened person can tell you that above all these, there is a higher purpose, which is to know who you are. That's what we say. You are divine, and that experience you should have. With that experience, you should operate in this world. That experience requires certain efforts, which is what a guru tells you. And this purpose is the word. See, everybody will not start meditating the moment they are born. It takes time for them to understand the value, why they need to do this, how they need to do this. So it's a process. Now, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Swadharma. Swadharma is the word that he uses. What you are born to do, that is your real purpose to begin with. Some people are born to be engineers. So, Sir M. Vishwaguru was born here. He could not have been anybody else. He had to be an engineer. Narasimha Murthy sir, even though he educated to be an engineer, he was born to be an educationist and philosopher. So he learnt it little later after wasting a few hours and few years of his life. But then he found his purpose and he's living happily. So when we do our purpose, only a spiritual master can tell us really when you're lost, what is your true purpose? Because they see through all these facade of show and exhibitionism and the pressure of peers and your parents and societies, and can tell you none of this is your purpose. Your actual purpose is something higher. And that could be like Narendra Modi ji said, he wanted to be a sannyasi. He went to Ramakrishna Mutt to get in, instituted as a sannyasi. But there, Swamiji said, "This is not your purpose. You are here to serve the country. Come back later. You are not here for this." He didn't believe, because all these are, I'm speaking from my personal conversations. So he went to Himalayas, searching for another guru, saying, "Leave Ramakrishna Mutt because they are not taking me in." And he went looking for other places, and he found a guru somewhere up in the Himalayas. Now it's there in his book as well. And he also told him the same thing. Though he spent a couple of months in Himalayas with the guru, he told him finally, "See, I have figured this out, that your purpose is not sannyasa. You live like a sannyasi, but not in Himalayas. Go back to the society. Your work is not done. You go back. That's your purpose." So spiritual master is who is impartial, who is only interested in your highest welfare, not bogged down or pressurized by the social demands. He alone can give you a clear direction in your life. And who knows, whatever you're doing, that might be your purpose at this point in time. Maybe 10 years later it would change, but he would tell you whether you're on the right road or not. And if you do not have a guru, simple way of knowing whether you are serving your purpose is, if you're waking up every day with a winged heart, that I have something nice to do today, whatever be it. It could be a simple job of cleaning up the place like a janitor or a gardener or a milkman or a watchman or a vice-chancellor. You wake up every day feeling good about what you're doing, and you never feel the burden or effort in it. You can work 24 hours and yet you are not tired. Physically, maybe, but not mentally. Then you know you're serving your purpose. And someday this itself will take you to the higher purpose at some point in time. That is how life has to be navigated. And a guru, I call him a GPS, guru positioning system. He guides you through this. He'll tell you, and even if you take a few wrong turns here and there, he will guide you back to the right road. He's very compassionate, like the GPS. It never abandons us. That you didn't take the turn, I told you I'm not talking to you anymore. No, they're very kind. They come on telling us, okay, the next one and the next one. Take the next turn, next turn. So guru in anybody's life is very important, and a guru can teach you your purpose. If your purpose and your education can match, you will do wonders. There will be excellence in the society. There won't be mediocrity. Today, problem of mediocrity is because we are doing something else other than what we were born to do. This is like a square peg in a round hole, or whichever way you put it. That is what is happening, and that is why people are not happy. Mental wellness issues are coming up because they're not happy doing what they're doing. So they're under stress, and then they don't know what their true purpose is. So every day they drag themselves to work. They do shoddy job. If teachers are like that, they will create worse students. You can imagine the kind of damage it would do. So I think finding your purpose, guru can do. And you know your purpose when you are waking up every day happy, full of energy, enthusiasm to do what you have got to do. And you're never tired, bored of what you're doing. Then you know your purpose. The day you start getting tired and bored, you know your purpose has to change. You're done this part of the journey. The next part of journey is something different. So again, look for that answer and continue your journey. And this has to be taught to all the students. But you can't teach it unless you have followed it in your life.
Sadhguruji, do you believe that humanization of education must begin at the primary school level, and that a teacher's emotional intelligence should be a critical criteria in recruitment and training processes? Because this is one of the most important aspect that most of my vice chancellors would be interested to listen to you. How do we, what process that we follow in identifying the right teachers for our education?
All educations must start early. Education is extremely crucial, because that's when the seeds are sown. But the seeds, only if they're sown, they are not going to germinate. Then secondary education should water that, nurture it, protect it, and tertiary education should help that plant to turn into a mighty tree without getting eaten away by goats and animals. So everybody has a role to play from primary till tertiary, till the child has become self-sufficient, can stand his own ground without any help. Till then, like a gardener, we all have to work together, primary to tertiary. We can't work in silos because the same child which is continuing this journey, he's just being passed on from one to the other. So all of us have to talk to each other. A professor cannot look down upon a primary school teacher saying, after all, what is your qualification? How many papers have you published? What's your standing in the academic fraternity? No, he's is very crucial role, because he is giving you the raw material on which you are going to work and turn it into a good product. So you have to respect all teachers from down to all the way up to higher education. And primary is extremely important because these are impressionistic years. Whatever is there at that point in time becomes a lifelong value system. It only modifications happen on the way, but the real values get embedded in the psychology of the child that early. So I think the passing through 6 years to 13, 14 years is a very crucial period when the child is able to understand good from bad and make his own impressions about things and slowly developing a value system within. It's his own personal value system, but highly influenced by the people who are around. Now, in teenage, what happens is that they come across other children with other sets of values. That's where conflict starts happening, because they all have not grown in the same value system. So they start comparing notes and seeing what helps, what does not help. And then when you try to monetize everything at the end of the day, you realize some of the value systems of yours are not monetizable. They're not going to make you richer. No, you have to tell lies, you have to cut corners. That's when you get rich faster. Then you start losing your conviction in your values. That is when secondary school teachers come in and say, no, no, what you have learned is right. And that is how it should be. And from there, when the child grows to tertiary, it is very important that the professors and others give him the right input and further the cause of his journey. I met somebody from the US. They were going and talking to the slum children. Very impressed they were, because one slum child replied, I want to be a doctor. And he said, oh, that's a typical Indian answer, because all children want to be doctors here. Why, you want to make money finally? She said, no, I've seen so many poor that I want to help them in my own slums. I want to be a doctor. He said, that's a wonderful answer. He was inspired. Then he asked the next girl, what do you want to do? She said, I want to be an engineer. He said, the typical answer, if not doctor, engineer. Why do you want to be an engineer? She said, I want to help build hospitals for the doctor next to me. That's how I want to be engineer. So he came here excited. He told, oh, such wonderful children, what a future, and things like that. I said, I've heard dime a dozen of these answers in the last 15 years, because children are innocent. They have been told, serve the society, do good to others. They take it upon themselves. By the time they grow and reach their 20s, their perspectives change. Yes, I will serve as a doctor, but after I'm retired. Let me first make my money, get my things back. So 40, 50 years they spend on all these things. Then they're old and they cannot find which teeth to pull and which to leave. That's when they come back to serve the society. And what would I do with them? So this is where I said that inspiration happens naturally to innocence. But to preserve and protect that inspiration is not the job of the child, it's the job of everybody around the child. His inspiration should not die because of us. And as teachers, you have the biggest influence, because the child spends the largest number of waking hours in a school with the teacher, not even with his parents. If you look at his whole life, and you are getting the lion's share of his time and attention. And if you don't do the right job of it, who is to be blamed? So teachers are extremely important, whether primary, secondary, or tertiary. They should own up their job. They should feel inspired to inspire their children. And any deviation they should correct quickly by encouraging the child to do the right thing and help him or her to stay on the path, because it's very easy to get distracted. So this is the great role of teachers, and I think um, one must take it very, very seriously. It's beyond just doing a job. It is building a person's life, the character and the country and the world. So it's a huge job.
Thank you, Sadhguruji. We belong to a generation that witnessed a value-based society during our formative years, only to see a repeat erosion of these values due to ongoing societal transformations. Increased tech dependence has raised the concern that future generations may become increasingly emotionless. Keeping this context in mind, how can we reintroduce and reinforce our values within the education system by harnessing AI driven digital tools without outrightly rejecting it? And how should humanity prepare and respond to a scenario of machines simulating emotions and outsmarting human capabilities?
Very interesting question. Yeah, machines are capable of simulating anything today. And I have seen people living lonely in countries abroad, in Europe and US, all the time talking to Alexa, like it is her child, all the time. And they feel very comforted that there is somebody to talk to. And she is also so super smart, so very intelligent, gives you all the answers that you ask for. And it also knows at what time you're going to ask what questions. No, because artificial intelligence, all that machine learning has gone into that Alexa thing. And people are living in a pseudo world of their own, in a euphoria that they are being looked after. But let me tell you, if other than the routine things happen in her life or his life, the person's life, do you think Alexa can handle that? It cannot. Can you ask, I have lost my son. Alexa, please give me comfort. What is the Alexa going to do? Will it chant Bhagavad Gita shlokas for her? You know, Mirate, Jayate, and all that. No. You need a arm around your shoulders at that time, a shoulder to put your head and cry on. You need to feel the warmth of human presence in around you. That is when you feel comforted. Machines cannot comfort you. Now, tomorrow you may say, oh, robotics or whatever, now these things are coming up, People are marrying robots, I heard, legally. They want to marry because they feel she cooks, she cleans, she does everything I tell her to do and does not fight with me at the end of the day. I can switch her off, unlike a wife. I've seen all these ideas coming up. They want to have a robot as their partner in life. They don't want to have children and all. They just want companionship. Now, whether it can really replace the void that is created by human emotions, no, it can never. Yes, to some extent, it can give you an impression, like like a medicine, you take and you get into that delirium. You feel all your pains are gone. You are feeling very good, but the moment the effect goes down, your pain is back. It's not a permanent thing. Spiritual or a social companionship. We are social animals. We need social people around us, good people around us. So I don't think AI can fully replace it forever. It can do some small things for you, make you feel good, but it can never completely replace the possibility of human emotions. So I do not think that's a threat. But increasingly, dependency of students and people on artificial intelligence is quite dangerous because, as I said, they're living in a dream world, in an imaginary world. This metaverse, when it came up, there are metaverse crimes. And I read an article where a child was abused in the metaverse, in her meta avatar, not the real one. But she felt the trauma of it in the real life. She became a recluse because she was abused by some meta avatars of some boys in that metaverse, where she had her avatar also present there. But whatever experience happened in them, like sometimes nightmares can shake us up. Like that, the child went into some kind of a depression and recluse. This is the effect of AI, unguarded AI. And I don't think there is any regulatory framework we can protect this. When TVs came, we had the same argument. When computers came, we had the same argument. When smartphones came, we have the same argument. Now AI is coming, we are having the same argument. Learn something from our past, how TVs or internets or computers have influenced our generations. I think all the world has to come together to come to some essence, yes, knows, do's and don'ts about AI also. Otherwise, it can become an unbridled growth of over dependency. People with less emotions, more traumatized, and they will take their lives. It can do anything. The blue whale children's game. When one or two of our students had that, so I found out. Then of course we banned everything. Children have committed suicide because it pushes you to kill yourself. It controls your mind. I have seen children shooting their parents because they stopped them from using the phone. And they say now phone is the extended limb of the child. You cannot take it away from the child. So it's this over dependency is very dangerous and very alarming. And my view is that Australia has already banned phones in the schools, saying you cannot bring schools to phones to school. So also we do not allow anything in our colleges and schools. We are strictly. I think everybody has to come together and say that till they develop their own personality and inner strength, let them not become dependent on these kind of instruments and gadgets. And that is something that the society has to collectively make a call on that. Governments may do, may not do. They have vested interests. If they were so particular about banning alcohol or something, they would have done by now in their power. But that gives them the biggest revenue. These video games are giving them revenues. These artificial intelligence companies, entertainment industry is giving the government the taxes and revenues. They are not going to ban it forever. Still, I appreciate Mr. Modi for banning TikTok. That is, and also one PUBG. I'm very, very proud that our country could do that. It was going somewhere. So I think as educationists and parents also, we have to take a collective call saying thus far and not further, and be very strict about it. There should be clear rules and clear consequences of flaunting the rules. If we all don't do that together, I don't think we have a future. We will all end up as zombies, digital zombies. We have no emotions left, and we will never be able to enjoy the human life that God has gifted us with. So I think we have to take a collective call. There has to be advocacy for this.
I have an interesting technical questions from one of the vice. As India is preparing to achieve a target of 500 gigawatt in renewable energy capacity requiring skilled human resource is the need of the day. Whether Satyasai University of Human Excellence has any plans to introduce relevant courses, and is there a plan to start Bachelor of Education program as well?
We actually want to start a rural engineering program, not BSc, but an engineering program, but it's totally oriented towards the rural needs of the country, which is everything from water management to your soil management to electricity to everything else, the waste management, infrastructure development, name it. That is our next plan. We started with an agricultural course this time because we saw a lot of farmers do not understand. They are going by the way of green revolution, and now the soils are deteriorated, water tables are gone, cancers are spreading, kidney disease are spreading. So we want to teach their own children that learn the better way of doing things and go back and implement in your own farm. So we started a course, you know it, you are from this field. So that was because agriculture is the biggest profession in our country. If we can correct that, we have corrected 65-70% of the professional problems in the country, because they are the ones who are employed in agricultural sectors. So if we get the agriculture right, our food systems will be right, water systems will be right, disease patterns will change, climate issues will stop. So many good things can happen if you just set one agriculture right. So we started with that experiment with all your help and everybody's support. I was in Japan a week ago at Tokyo University of Agriculture and Technology, learning from what they do, how they, because they have very little soil. They have to grow so much rice, and of course, rest of the they eat from the ocean, but still they eat rice, and they have shortage of it. So they're worried about their food security. So they are finding new ways of rejuvenating soil. So I was learning about them, these biochars and things like that. How can we use our jaivic methods and also use some technology from there? So our idea is to build technology for rural sustenance, because urban side people are standing in a queue to do that because there is money to be made on that side. Whereas these are the things which are fundamental. There not be too much money, but without these, our country will have a very lopsided growth. Eventually, it will collapse. So yes, rural engineering courses will come up next year. That will include even AI/ML to for better crop monitoring and all the other things, including the technologies for better cultivation. So agriculture is first focus. Energy, of course, will be the on the sidelines, and renewable energy is the way, because fossil fuels is, we already have seen the difficulty. The prime minister is committed to solar alliance is there now, all that is happening, but I don't think the solution is a mass scale solution. It has to be microgrids, off grid solutions, more like village oriented solutions to understand what works there and what does not work. One size fits all cannot be the way. Right now, huge solar parks are coming up. Efficiencies are low. As such, solar panels are 25-30% efficiency. And then all the transmission losses on the way, and then the stealing that happens from those. So really, it is not making big sense. We make billions of rupees of investment. The effect is limited. So I think if you have ownerships of these plants at the village level, local level with microgrids, so everybody feels it. There's a community participation. That is the way. And we have a success story because we tried to help with water management, because a lot of waterborne diseases. So we started setting up water purification plants, but the ownership is with the village. They give us the land, the panchayat gives the land, we set up the water treatment plant, we give them an ATM card, water ATM, water card. So any person who has with a card can only draw 20 liters of water a day in 24 hours period. It means midnight to midnight, and that will stop after 20 liters of dispensing. That way we ensure that safe drinking water is equally distributed to the whole village. Of course, we had to invest by putting an engineer, not an engineer, a technician to keep maintaining and going around. So for 10 or 15 plants, there's one technician who goes around and corrects this. But the ownership is by the village people, because this water is for them, and water is free. Because the village water, we are just processing it, that's all. But we are not allowing them to overuse it so that everybody gets their share. This is one model of community ownership. Similarly, if we think of energy as a community ownership model, a microgrid which serves the entire community, I think everybody will be in charge of, because everybody needs the energy. Otherwise, what is happening? Government floats tenders, some companies go set up these things. Next day, no panels, no battery, no wires, everybody's stolen. Everything is stolen. It's a BOT model, doesn't work. So unless community owns it up, it's not going to work. So I think we should rethink our solar strategy. And energy sufficiency is possible for India. The amount of solar and battery technologies are improving continuously. Storage technologies are improving, and I think that's possible. But if we have to do it differently than what presently we are doing.
Yeah. Sadhguruji, we received several questions from all the August gathering present here, and we have tried to put them under different themes. Theme 1 talks about relevance of value-based education in modern India. Theme 2 talks about transformation through values. Theme 3 talks about integrating spirituality in academia. Theme 4 talks about youth, values, and readiness. Theme 5 is about globalization of moral education. Theme 6 is about vision for 2050. So, because of paucity of time, we will not be able to take all the questions, but the questions that I have placed before you is the summary of most of these questions. But I would request on behalf of all the Honorable Vice Chancellors, we would share all these questions for your blessings, and then we would request you to give your wisdom on all these questions, and we will take it up and then share it with all the Honorable Vice Chancellors in the days to come. And without losing much time, we would request your wisdom to be shared with all other Vice Chancellors. I would request the VCs to kindly be very short in your question, and we will start it with that.
My name is Ashish and I teach in IIT Bombay. I heard you 2-3 times talking about mental health, and also you mentioned about this scaling up. We have created a solution for the scaling up and the mental health at multiple age groups and multiple languages. So whom I can meet to take forward this, because IIT is somewhat good at creating this, but we are not specialized in disseminating it and making it available to the. Just let us know whom we can connect with, and we'll lay it out for that.
We have a BSc mental health program, mental wellness program. We call it. We don't call it mental health.
Yeah, we are calling it also mental health.
Yeah.
Actually, the project name is Panchakosha Wellbeing.
Something because nobody wants to be part of such a thing. So, but Dr. Shruti Neeraj is there. She's our in charge of this program. She's here right now. So she's in charge, and we are working with some other universities also, and including now we are working with this monastery in Sri Lanka, Jetavanarama. So trying to include many aspects. So we will learn and do that. Surely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste, Sadhguru. In your discourse, you were mentioning about short-term courses which are relevant to solve the local problems. As you are aware, Swamiji, we conducted a rural Unicorn program, become globally successful. So for the August gathering here, because I know that the tsunami of layoffs are likely to happen in the next 2 to 5 years. Many people will not be able to get jobs. So I suggest to them, they can pick up some industry verticals depending on the local, what are the industries are there, either pharma or biotechnology or life sciences. If they can run, anyway, these BTech people who are not getting the jobs, if they can create entrepreneurial courses around solving the local problems using the industry. 1 year, if they are able to do that, second year, actually, they can work in those industries. Thereby, either they can become entrepreneurs or they can work in those companies. Otherwise, there will be many people will be unemployed. They will be left with this thing. A lot of depressions, mental depressions will happen. So that's the suggestion I want to give to all the honorable vice chancellors here. Maybe we can experiment one in our university, a program we can create, and how that can be replicated in another university. Our International Startup Foundation will be more than happy to help on that, Swamiji.
Surely. I think that's a good bridge between the academia and industry. That's what you're saying. Yes.
Northeast India represent the great values that you have been cherishing and pursuing. So I humbly request you kindly focus on Northeast India, where our universities, my university as well as my sister universities, will work for achieving your mission. Thank you, sir.
Very, very happy. We will definitely work in the Northeast.
Pranam Swamiji. I am Dr. Balkrishna Shetty, Professor of Radiology and Vice-chancellor of Mallareddy Vishwavidyapeeth, Hyderabad. Swamiji, you know very well that we had our ancient system of medicine. I feel which was really good. And of late, we have been following Western medicine, and we know all the problems of the Western medicine. So we are looking into what is called as integrated medicine. Of course, you are also focusing a lot into integrated medicine. Most of the chronic diseases are managed by our own medicine and Western medicine, of course, for trauma and emergency. And what is your takes on this, madam, regarding integrated medicine, where we can teach our students how to take care of health and emergency with Western medicine? I want your inputs on this, Swamiji.
Thank you for asking that. We actually wanted to start a medical college with integrated medicine as the course, but there was no structure, no curriculum, no assessment, no regulation. They said this we will revisit later. So right now we went ahead with whatever was regular, but we have introduced these as electives so that they have a broader perspective of what Indian medicine was all about. The gap is evidence-based medicine. I think a lot of research needs to go on, a lot of publications must happen. Now we have started working with Vivekananda Yoga Anusandhana Kendra, and we also started working with TDU and others to come up with evidence-based Indian medicine, be it Siddha, be it Ayurveda, anything, Unani or naturopathy, the molecule structure, what's happening at the molecular level. If we can explain that, then there is acceptance. Then we can also talk to the Western medicine in the same terms. Otherwise, we are always looked at as people who are not scientific. Though it works, but how does it work? We are not able to explain. So I think we have to get into a lot of research, formulary, whatever we are producing as drugs. Regulation is not there. The quality of the ingredients, the efficacy, all this is questionable. So we should learn from Western medicine, copy their methodology and implement it in the traditional medicine system. And that is possible. As institutions, we can work together also on this. Thank you for asking.
Saiji. I am Dr. M.L. Gaur. I am Vice-chancellor from Dr. C.V. Raman University in Vaishali, Bihar. My one question is that happiness we have very well described in this conference. My way of thinking, this is dynamic. It changes from when you birth, when you die. So you have involved mathematicians in defining the happiness by different indexes. So my suggestion is that how it changes with space. If I am here, I am happy. If I am not here, go to Bihar, I am not happy. So with space it changes, and with time it changes. When I am child, I am happy. When I die, I am not happy. So with respect to space and time, the happiness index it changes. So your mathematicians must take note of this, and a good research can be done. This is my humble suggestion. Thank you very much.
We'll keep that as a research problem.
सदगुरु जी आपके चरणों में कोटि कोटि प्रणाम। मैं दीप्ति धर्मानी फ्रॉम चौधरी बंसीलाल यूनिवर्सिटी हरियाणा से हूँ। मुझे अपने बच्चों से अनुभव करते हुए महसूस होता है देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ एग्रेशन, द कंटेंट ऑफ एग्रेशन इन द यूथ इज इंक्रीजिंग, सो हाउ टू डील विद इट? देयर आर सो मेनी incidences of violence in the campus.
Yes. See, aggression is our animal instincts that we have brought from our previous evolutionary patterns. जो ये aggression क्या है? Survival instinct है और कुछ नहीं. Aggression तब आता है जब आप survival आपका threatened होता है. आपकी सुरक्षा जब नहीं होती है, आप तब एग्रेसिव हो जाते हो. जब आप सुख से हो, सिक्योर हो, तो क्यों एग्रेशन करेंगे? जब आपकी पर्सनल व्हाटएवर इज गेटिंग अफेक्टेड, यू फील इनसिक्योर, यू गेट एग्रेसिव. दैट्स एन एनिमल बिहेवियर एज पार्ट ऑफ आवर एवोल्यूशन दैट हैज कम. तो उसको रिफाइन करने के लिए ही ये ह्यूमन बर्थ है और जो भी मेथडोलॉजीज है. तो एग्रेशन इज अ माइंड्स क्वालिटी, नॉट बॉडी क्वालिटी. बॉडी फॉलोज द माइंड. तो माइंड में क्या हो रहा है ये हमको समझना ज़रूरी है. इसलिए थोड़ी साइकोलॉजी आज के जनरेशन की पता होनी चाहिए. और माइंड को क्या चाहिए? लगातार एक्साइटमेंट चाहिए. वो उसी से उसको खुशी मिलती है या प्लेजर मिलता है. खुशी भी नहीं बोल सकते, प्लेजर मिलता है. माइंड को एक्साइटेड रहने की ज़रूरत है. तो क्या होता है, रॉन्ग चीज़ों से एक्साइट हो जाएंगे तो एग्रेसिव हो जाएंगे, राइट चीज़ों से एक्साइट हो जाएंगे तो यूज़फुल हो जाते हैं. बच्चे सब रॉन्ग चीज़ों से एक्साइट हो रहे हैं क्योंकि उनको वही इनपुट मिल रहा है ना, सोशल मीडिया से हो या समाज में जो चल रहा है। तो उनको थोड़ा-सा हम लोग एक प्रोग्राम पे रखना पड़ेगा कि कुछ समय जो है दिन का माइंडफुलनेस पे, आपके अंदर क्या चल रहा है, किस चीज़ पे आप क्यों रिएक्ट करते हो? ये एक प्रोग्राम हमको स्कूल के और कॉलेजेस के अंदर इंट्रोड्यूस करना पड़ेगा। पहले तो सुबह 15 मिनट प्रार्थनाएँ होती थी, अब तो वो भी नहीं होती किसी कॉलेज में। चलो क्लास में ही आप एक कन्वर्सेशन शुरू करो। वी विल स्टार्ट द क्लास, वी ऑल विल सिट डाउन फॉर 2 मिनट्स, ब्रीथ डीपली एंड अपने आप को टटोलें कि कहाँ पर क्या चल रहा है। अभी मेरे में गुस्सा है तो कहाँ से आ रहा है ये गुस्सा, उसकी जड़ क्या है? थोड़ा-सा हम लोग वो इन्वेस्टिगेशन करें। ऐसे 2-3 मिनट तो हर टीचर अपने क्लास में इन्वेस्ट कर सकता है। तो माइंडफुलनेस कि आपके अंदर क्या चल रहा है आप नहीं जानते हो, तो बिना जाने आप ये बिहेवियर रिएक्शन कर देते हो। तो वो आप लोग थोड़ा ज़ इंट्रोड्यूस कीजिए। बड़ा स्पिरिचुअल प्रोग्राम नहीं कह रहा हूँ, कोई बड़ी प्रार्थना भी नहीं कह रहा हूँ। 2-3 मिनट का सेल्फ सिटिंग माइंडफुलनेस, तो अंदर समझ में आए कि क्यों वो ऐसा बिहेव कर रहे हैं। और तो एक नोट्स बोलिए उनको करने के लिए कि एक नोटबुक रखिए अपना सेल्फ असेसमेंट नोटबुक और लिखते रहिए आज मैं ऐसे फील कर रहा हूँ, इसका कारण ये है। कम से कम एक बार कारण समझ में आएगा तो आपको पता है कि कहाँ पे जाके इसको सुधारना है। आप उतना इंट्रोड्यूस कीजिए 2-3 मिनट का सेल्फ साइलेंट सिटिंग।
Namaste, Sri Madhusudan Sai ji. It's a great thing to be here along with you. Two things quickly. One is I represent a government university, started recently. 7 new university VCs are here. On behalf of that, the Center of Excellence for Human Learning, we would like to start. I wanted to mention that. Secondly, people born with 50s, born in 60s, 70s, 80s, maybe we all are here, and we all were brought up with some humane or some moral things. Now present generation, we start blaming them that they're different, they're not ready to listen, all that. Where did we fail? Where is that we have failed to pass on this thing? As parents, did we fail, or as teachers, did we fail, or where is that disconnect which is happening, which we are now trying to rework on? Thank you, sir.
नो वी हैव फेल्ड कलेक्टिवली एज टीचर्स एंड पेरेंट्स, क्योंकि पेरेंट्स ने सोचा टीचर्स सिखा देंगे, टीचर्स ने सोचा पेरेंट्स सिखा देंगे, दोनों ने यही सिखाया, यही सच है। पेरेंट्स ने पूरा एजुकेशन आउटसोर्स कर दिया टीचर्स को, बोला हम तो फ़ी दे रहे हैं, आप ही सिखाइए सब कुछ। और टीचर्स ने बोला हम तो पढ़ाने के पैसे देते हैं लेते हैं, बाकी का हमारा काम नहीं, वो एक्स्ट्रा मेहनत हम क्यों करें, वो आप घर पे सिखाओ। तो सबने ये एक-दूसरे के ऊपर ये डाल दिया है, नाउ ब्लेम गेम हैज़ स्टार्टेड। बट द ट्रुथ इज़ दैट वी हैव कलेक्टिवली फेल्ड, इसलिए ये all three units have to come together: student, the parents and the teachers. If all three come together, then only it will succeed. It's a tripod. दो पैरों पे नहीं खड़ा हो सकते, इसको तीन पैरों पे खड़ा होना है। अब तो कम से कम we have realized, let us implement this is my way.
Swamiji, I am a student of Satsai School, Rajahmundry, at present Vice-chancellor of one of the university. My question is, how to balance this academic excellence and humane education? What is the percentage? Any scientific approach? Because or can we monitor, regulate with some ethics committees like that? Some committees in a higher education level. I need some suggestion on these 2 points.
If you come to our institution, we have given 1/3 to each of these aspects. 1/3 to your personal aspects, like your own personal requirements, 1/3 to education, academic, and 1/3 to your spiritual and personality development. So that is the kind of division of time and efforts have been made, which is a minimum that we require. And if you see our Indian scriptures, Satvik Kal, Rajasic Kal, Tamasic Kal, they say. So Satvik times are in the morning and evening. That's used for prayers and all these good activities. During the day, 8 hours are spent in academic rigor, and night 8 hours or whatever, evening to early morning is in resting and other things. I don't know whether institutions can bring this, which is very difficult, I understand, with the academic requirements. But my view is that at least 20-25% of the students' time should be spent on self-development, personality development, seva activities in the near the college, or any other spiritual workshops, training. At least quarter of their time and energy should be spent on that. That if we can implement in somehow, in small doses, I think it would work better.
We have been discussing about the inculcation of values, imbibing of values. Of course, it is, as you have suggested, it is possible during the age group of 6 years to 12 years. We can control them, we can regulate their emotions, conduct, and behavior, and bring back the values. Even the students who are learning in various higher educational institutions, we can also reform them because they are under our clutches. But the larger chunk of the youths today, they have gone out of the mainstream. They have lost the morality. They have been addicted to the various habits. And this larger chunk of this youth needs to be brought back within the framework of this compassion, framework of these values, ethical, moral values, because they are not respecting their own their own kith and kin, their own parents, because they have lost the basic values which needs to be imbibed. How to bring about them, because they are out of the purview of our
cannot control
educators.
them anymore. But thing is that I said you prepare some catalytic change makers in your institutions. See, young only can talk to young. Old people telling them you are right, you are wrong, they are not going to listen. So I think at least don't worry about the water that has gone into the sea already. We cannot get it back. But what is going now into the sea? 4 crore children in higher education institutions, close to 16 to 20 crore in schools. Let us protect them before they also become saline water. So that's where this step is being taken. But once this happens, these good children go into the society, in 8-10 years, they will start influencing the others around them. I think let us not waste time getting the sea water back. Let us try to protect the fresh water getting into the sea right now.
Guruji, this is Professor Victor Lobo from St. Joseph's University, Bangalore. In our education system, tradition is very important. Maybe tribal tradition, Indian tradition, our own tradition. In the same way, modernity is also very important. You have traveled the world. You have read books. In Kannada, we say, Desha Nodu, Kosha Odu. Same thing we've done it. However, we have to look at the past, and also the past should pave the way for the future. How to integrate the past with the future or tradition with modernity?
Our traditions were created to bring morality into our daily life. No, do this, don't do this. He said, Kalebeda, Kalabeda. The idea was that we chanted all kids in Karnataka know this, they chant this. It was only because traditions were there was a system in place that people followed values. But dismantling tradition is dismantling the very, what do you call this, scaffolding of value system. So it will collapse. So some traditions important, whether they are rituals or any other social traditions, we should protect them, but make sure that they are not archaic, they are not irrelevant anymore to today's times. So they should be useful. Children, when they follow a tradition, should find the benefit or the usefulness of it. That is important. That's what I think. No, I think we have to think. Some of the traditions I also don't agree to, like fasting for so long. Many children, they're going to colleges, schools. I told, don't have to fast this bad. Whatever night you're fasting, that's good enough. Every day we are fasting. Once in a while you do. But too orthodox on that matter will make you inefficient for the day. Dysfunctional, angry or hangry, as they say. Similarly, silence, some people take too long. They don't speak at all. And they'll keep writing chits in that terrible handwriting nobody can read. So much of miscommunication. So silence is it's a traditional value, but it has to be practically utilized. So some of them have to be reinvented for modern times, but they are important.
Professor B.V. Ramana Reddy from NIT Kurukshetra. Now, we have a dream and we are going towards 2047. We want to become Vishwaguru. But how can we become Vishwaguru only on the parameters of GDP?
Yeah.
Should be happiness index,
Yeah.
and education is the means by which we have to move forward. What is your advice on this? Should we also advise the government that this is also an important component to be considered when we talk about 2047?
Yeah, I think that is the most important component. On economic or scientific advancements, we become Vishwaguru, somebody else will become better than us tomorrow. But on spiritual basis, I don't think there is any other country which has such deep-rooted value systems, such amazing scriptural knowledge, and a civilization which has practiced that for over 10,000 years. Who else has that background? Nobody else other than us. So we have to become Vishwaguru on this basis only. Economic progress is not a secondary parameters. The first parameter is this soft power, our cultural influence on the rest of the world. That would set a lot of things right, because all other things are replicable. This is not. This comes from our soul, and that is only existing in India. So we cannot. This is our USP, whatever you call it, our core strength. I think we should use this to become Vishwaguru. But if we don't have economic progress, also people won't respect us. So we must do that as well. That's why our ancient traditions of balance of both the world and the God, that is how we managed. We have to do that again.
Professor Niranjana, Vice-chancellor, Bangalore North University, Kolar. We all agree that humanization of education should begin, and the role of teachers are very important in making our education humane. But one thing that is haunting my mind since yesterday is, who are the people who are becoming teachers in this society now, especially in the primary days, primary schools? Those people who could not get any other job, they are becoming teachers. And if they get 1000 rupees more somewhere else, overnight he will run away from teaching. I was in a international, very famous international school in Bangalore as a chief guest. There were 3000 students and about 6000 parents. I asked, how many of you want to become teachers? Only 2-3 hands came up. This is the reality in our society. How can we? They are not bothered about human values or humanizing education. And the people who are becoming teachers, whether they are really human is the basic question. How to solve this?
Yeah, for 30, 40 years, we've ignored teaching as a respectable profession. We have not compensated them financially, or respect in the society also has not been accorded to them as they deserve. So people have moved away from teaching professions, because tomorrow your student who graduates earns more than what you're earning today. So naturally you feel left out. I had a child, I asked him, what do you want to become? He said, I want to become a teacher, but my parent wants me to become an engineer. I said, but why you want to be an engineer when you don't want to be one? He said, my parents are saying. I said, what is the reason? He said, they think that engineering earns more, so they want to withdraw me and put me in engineering college, but I don't want to be. I said, tell your parents I'll give you 1 lakh rupees salary per month, double the engineer's salary, and tell me what they say. He called and came back to me, said they're very happy that I'll be a teacher. So you know why I think we have to also economically, financially look after our teachers better. Of course, all these pay commissions have come now, but again, the leftover of the talent is what is benefiting from it. But I'm hoping that with this change of pay commissions, and also generally creating again that old culture, the teachers were respected in our society. Everybody stood up when a teacher passed. So that culture is gone. So I think that we have to bring in our institute. If you go and ask in a class, how many of you want to be a teacher? I think only 2 people won't lift their hands. The 98 will lift their hands, because we told them this is the best service you can do to the country, to the world, if you be a teacher. So that culture creation will happen. As I said, when these children go to other universities slowly, they'll start influencing. It's a long process, but with all our help, it can be done.
Thank you very much for all your wonderful questions. Now it's time for me to put the last question to Sadhguruji. Your vision for India 2050 and also for the world. And not the last but least question. The thing is, your take-home message for all my fellow vice chancellors from this conference.
Sangho Shakti Kaliyuge. If we are together, we can achieve anything. I think this togetherness and willingness to work together is what will make this conference a success. Otherwise, conference happen in India, abroad, everywhere, every day, and not much comes out of it. So end of all knowledge is action. Unless that action happens, knowledge is wasted. So my request to everyone is that since you have agreed even to come to this conference, some of you have come for the second time, it shows that you are interested in something like this. Otherwise, you wouldn't have come, wasted your time. When I know that there is already an All India conference going on in Gujarat right now. So despite that you have come, I truly appreciate that. That's the first thing. Second thing, we want to make it work. We don't want to leave it on the paper as a feel-good thing, but we want to really implement it. And as I said, whatever is your constraints, please share it with our team. And there is an email ID has been created, International Institute of Human Values Education, IIHVE at sssUHE.ac.in. That is where you can write your constraints, saying, I would like to implement a gold medal in human education. I would like to set up a department with 2 faculty. These are my constraints. My university allows this, does not allow this. Tell me what are the 5 things this department would do. But my request to you is that you should be the head of the department as Vice-Chancellor. It should be directly under you. Don't pass it on to somebody saying, please take it forward. Don't do that. It will never take off. Please, you be in charge of the program. To faculty, we will support the expense. We will also support a gold medal for the graduating batch so that they also feel pride. They feel recognized for the good that they're doing. Our society fails to recognize the good. That is why people are not shying from becoming good. But that age children need that encouragement. So I think this is something that we want to do. If we are 50 plus people over here, let us start 50 centers to begin with. Let us institute 50 gold medals at graduate and postgraduate levels at your university. You find a way to implement the Human Excellence Program. It's a self-assessment program. Actually, we did not even want to pressurize you. In our university, it's a peer-reviewed program. Students, faculty, even a librarian, and the teachers, all of them, his classmates, all of them review him. Only then we give. So we call a different program in our university. I understood that is not implementable easily. But self-assessment programs can be implemented. It's a psychometric analysis on which people can assess themselves, submit their results. Then you can take opinion from classmates and teachers whether this is a good assessment. Based on that, we can award a medal and a citation and a small scholarship also for them to buy books or some periodicals or something which will help them also in financial way. So we are very committed to this program. Details can be worked out. And as we go back to our universities, let us go back with this vision. And I am sure you may not be vice chancellors there forever, but if you have sown this seed and nurtured it, it will become a permanent feature of the institute, and you would have done a great service, left behind a great legacy for the next generation to follow. So this is my request to everybody. I would definitely like to see at least 50 centers opening in your own universities, and we will support that. Thank you.
I take this opportunity to extend heartfelt thanks to Sadhguruji on behalf of all the honorable vice chancellors here. I would request all of you to give a standing ovation to Sadhguru.
Thank you.